Hi, it's Elisa. Welcome to a very special chair yoga practice. And today we're going to start seated. And I'm in a kind of a folding chair, but you can be in whatever chair feels comfortable as long as it doesn't have any wheels or anything like that. So you want to be steady and secure, nice and stable. And I'm sitting near the front of my chair, but you might choose to be, closer to the back if that feels more comfortable to you. So if it doesn't feel accessible, sitting back so you have some support or maybe putting a pillow behind your back. But the big thing is we want to make sure we have both feet on the ground. So, and you might even pat your feet out a little bit, wiggle the toes. And one thing that, we say a lot of times in my chair classes is good morning toes. So looking down and saying good morning and then just giving those toes a little wiggle. So we're feeling connected to the earth right now when we place our feet on the ground and, really noticing the surface that you're on. So it's really helpful to have bare feet so you can, feel the carpet or the floor. And I'm on a sticky mat and I can feel the texture of the mat. So just, giving yourself that moment of awareness because a lot of times we, don't pay attention to those things. So feeling that, that surface, that temperature. And then from here, we're going to allow ourselves to settle into stillness. So if you need to, maybe shift side to side, maybe back and forth. Sometimes we lean forward or we lean back, and it's only by going between those variations that we find what upright feels like or what neutral feels like. And then you can have your palms face up in a gesture of receiving or your palms face down. And we'll just allow our eyes to close for a few moments. And we're going to focus on our breath. So beginning to notice your breath in this moment. So at first, just being aware of it, not needing it to change in any way, just noticing where you're aware of the breath. Is it on the in breath? Maybe through the nose or the chest, maybe all the way down to the belly. And then maybe on the out breath, maybe you notice the temperature of the air coming out your nostrils. Maybe it feels a little warmer on the out breath than it did on the way in. And then as we just continue to watch the breath, relaxing the shoulders. Maybe you're creating some tension in the shoulders. So, if you feel any of that, sneaking up on you, relaxing those shoulders back and down. You might even shrug them up and then back so you can feel that sense of release. And now you can keep your eyes closed or they can be open. And we're just going to have a little more focused attention on the breath. And it can be really helpful to place one hand on the belly and one hand on the chest. And we'll inhale through the nose, feeling the belly expand and then the chest. And then as we exhale, also through the nose, we'll reverse that. So exhaling chest to belly. So inhaling, expanding, exhaling, releasing. Finding an equal ratio to our breathing. So whatever the length is for the in-breath, we'll make an equal amount of time for the out-breath. And really consciously expanding into the belly. So oftentimes we go through life thinking about sucking our bellies in, but on the in-breath, really letting that belly expand, creating space, and that's allowing the breath to come all the way down into the lower lungs. And what's happening is our diaphragm is actually pushing the belly out a little bit. And that's a much more soothing way to breathe. So it's soothing to our parasympathetic nervous system. It takes us out of fight or flight and puts us into rest and digest. So we'll just allow that breath to flow in, creating space. And again, you might feel the hands starting to move away from the midline, away from your spine. And then as you exhale, the hands and the body, the belly and the chest come closer to the spine. And see every time you breathe in, if you can create a little bit more space, a little bit more expansion. So one or two more breaths like that, allowing the breath to really create a sense of relaxation in the body and knowing that we can come back to this breathing anytime we need to. Anytime we're feeling stressful or feeling strained in any way. So now we'll bring our hands back down to our lap. And again, you might choose to keep your eyes closed here if you'd like to open them. We're going to focus on the breath a little bit differently. So if you need to adjust your seat in any way, and again, really being nice and straight and have elongation in the spine. We want to create a little bit of lift. So if you're feeling slumped, maybe putting that pillow or cushion behind you or sitting further back. Because when the spine is rounded, the energy doesn't travel through the spine as efficiently. And we really want to create that space, almost so if you're imagining that these are your vertebrae, we want to create a little bit of space between each of the vertebrae so we can get maybe a micro inch taller as we're sitting here. And now we'll take our hands and we'll place them palm down, face down on our lap. And really slowly, so almost as slowly as you possibly can, we're going to inhale, letting the hands rise, but only about chest height. And then exhaling, letting the hands come down for the full exhale. So inhaling and then exhaling. Not trying to rush through this in any way. Letting the hands move with the breath. We'll do a few more times like this. And as we're moving this way with the breath, still having awareness on our feet. So you might even have active legs here, pushing the feet down. And as I just pushed my feet down, I felt my thighs firm a little bit. So you might notice that. So even though we're in a seat, we're still very active with our bodies, active with our legs, creating some strength into the thigh muscles. And we'll do just one more. So maybe we did a couple more than initially planned. And now we're going to bring attention to our neck. So very gently, we'll inhale, sitting up tall, again, thinking maybe now we've got a string coming through the top of the head and we're getting taller. So again, that little bit of space, maybe we're getting taller even through the cervical spine. And then as we exhale, bowing the chin towards the chest. Inhaling to look straight ahead or maybe up just slightly, but being really cautious here, not overarching the head back. So we really paying attention to any sensations in the neck and then exhaling, coming back down. So we can do this a couple times. Again, maybe you'll stop right here, imagining you have a grapefruit or a softball between the chin and the chest, and then exhaling down. And it can feel really good to let the head hang heavy, maybe getting a stretch into the upper back and into the back of the neck. So we'll do one more time like this. And now we're just going to turn our head from side to side. So as we exhale, looking to one side, inhaling forward, exhaling to look to the other side. And as we're moving through any of these neck motions, or actually any of the practice, honoring your body and how it's feeling today. So if this doesn't feel good for any reason, finding what does feel good. So never feeling like you have to do anything that we're going through or anything that I'm demonstrating. You might choose a different variation, or maybe there's something else your body needs right now. And what I'm doing right now is just going through motion for the neck. So remembering that the neck is part of our spine, it's our cervical spine, and we want to keep our entire spine really mobile. That's going to help the spine stay young. So if we get stuck and we can't move anymore, then it loses that vitality. So we want to try and create that motion, really lubricate all the joints. And there are different joints in the spine, so I want to get into those vertebrae. Come back to center and maybe shrug the shoulders up on an in-breath, exhaling them back and down. Inhaling up, exhaling back and down. So now that I've moved into shoulders, you might be here with me, or maybe there's some other motion that your neck might need. And if you are circling with me, though, we'll go forward. So anytime we circle, we always want to go in both directions. And this is kind of like giving yourself a little bit of a massage. You can make this bigger if you'd like, or you can keep this smaller. You might bring the elbows out to the side. And since we're doing that for the front, maybe trying that for the back. So always remembering there's no right or wrong in any of our choices. So after doing that, we'll just shake everything out. Maybe shake the arms, shake the feet, do a little bit of running. And moving just to give your body a little bit of movement. So from here, I'm going to think about planting my sitting bones. So maybe moving any extra tissue. So think about, that extra tissue we have around our glutes, around our sitting bones at the base of our pelvis. And we're just going to make some circles for the torso, just above the hips. Maybe keeping your feet still about hip distance, or maybe it feels better to take them a little wider. And we'll go around in one direction. And then we'll switch and go around in the other direction. And this might not feel terribly natural because this isn't a movement we do quite often. So you might be feeling this into the lower back or the hips, maybe the inner thighs. Do one more time in this direction. And then we'll come back to center, bringing your feet back into that hip width distance, planting the feet on the ground. And now getting into our side body, we're going to inhale the right arm up. The left hand can just dangle here, or we can bring it to the hip, and we'll get taller. So reaching up as high as we can. If that doesn't feel good, you can just bring your hand to your shoulder. But maybe creating that space through the side body, getting into a little bit of lateral flexion. So we're reaching up, but we're getting space between those side ribs, and then we'll exhale down, and we'll do that other side. So inhaling the left arm up, maybe looking at the fingertips, or you could look to the opposite side. And again, it's just a little bit of a side bend. We're not going all the way over, but we're creating lateral flexion for the spine. And then we'll just switch sides with our breath. So every time we inhale, we'll reach up with one arm, exhaling down, inhaling the other arm up, exhaling down. So we'll just move with the breath. So you might be moving more quickly or maybe more slowly than I am. There's no right or wrong. It's just really about how you're feeling. And again, we want to move the spine in different planes of motion. And as we're moving from side to side, still pressing the feet down into the ground. So maybe actively pushing through the four corners of the feet. You might feel those thighs firm a little bit as we do that. Then one more time to each direction, or until you feel balanced between both sides of the body. And then we'll come back to our starting point here in our seat. So kind of like a seated mountain pose. And we're going to add in a little bit of twist, but we're going to just start with hands here at heart center. And this is called Anjali Mudra. And we're going to press into all the fingers into each other, and the thumbs are towards the chest. And starting with that in-breath, getting tall, we'll exhale and twist over to the right. So now my hands they've moved away from my chest, though they've gone closer to my armpit, but moving the arms to wherever feels good to you. And then we'll inhale to center. We'll exhale to the other side. So we're keeping our hands here at heart center so we don't strain or force anything. Using the breath to twist, exhaling to twist, inhaling to center, exhaling, and then inhaling, coming back. Do one more to this side. And now we're going to do a little different twist. So this time as we exhale, we'll come over to that right side, placing the left hand on the thigh. Right hand can be towards the lower back or maybe to the chair. But again, very little hold on either the leg or the chair. So if we let go of the hands, we'd stay exactly where we are. We're not forcing anything. Maybe letting our neck turn if that feels okay. But again, honoring any sensations in that neck. So if it feels better to turn the head in another direction, then honoring that. And we're creating that twist from the belly, and then the chest, and then the neck and shoulders follow, or the shoulders, neck, and head follow only if that feels okay. And then very slowly we'll make our way out of that, coming back to front, and we'll take our twist over to the left side. So again, maybe holding on, but not so much that we can't let go. So it's really all about the torso doing the twist. And with twisting from the belly button and the chest, again, this is really nutrifying for the spine. It's, sending all kinds of good stuff, circulation to the spine. And we can either look behind us or look in front of us, maybe looking directly ahead. And we'll slowly come forward. And from here, we're just going to give ourselves a little opportunity to tap the feet. So you might just do a little march, maybe lift the heels, maybe do a little bit of a run. So you might run the feet, or maybe just look down at the toes, lift the toes, toes down, toes up, toes down, toes up. From here, we're going to expand across the chest. So opening the arms like they're wings, or maybe like a cape. So imagining that you have this beautiful cape on and you're holding your cape here. So this might be a big chest opener for you. And if that's too much, bring your hands to maybe the back of the chair. So finding what feels good in your chest expansion. If you're here with your cape, your thumbs might be up, or you could experiment with turning the thumbs down. Maybe that changes the sensation into the shoulders. So seeing what feels better. Or again, maybe bringing hands to the back of the chair. Wherever you are, making sure that the neck is in a comfortable place. So not trying to look all the way up. And you might even bring the chin closer to the chest. And in this pose, we're countering forward leaning that we do over steering wheels, or when we're reading, or if we're looking at our cell phones or anything like that. So we spend a lot of our days rounding forward. So this is going to counter that. And from here, we're going to exhale, giving ourselves a big hug, crossing one way. And then we'll open and give ourselves a big hug, crossing the other way. And then what the heck, we'll do each one another time. So big hug, saying, I am enough. Saying it again, I am enough. We'll shake those arms out. And we're going to bring attention now to our lower body. So we did a little bit of tapping with our feet, waking the legs up before, but now we're just going to lift the heels, getting into the calf muscles, and then lowering them. So every time we exhale, we'll lift the heels up, and then we'll inhale to lower them. So just getting into those calf muscles, you might feel them contract a little bit. And then from here, we're going to sit back. If you're not already sitting back in your chair, we'll extend one leg forward, flexing the foot so that the toes are drawing in towards the knee. And we'll keep that knee soft, so that if that feels too much and we really want to protect that knee, then we'll keep the knee bent a little bit, but still having that flex. And then lowering down. And then switching sides. Lowering down. And I'm going to scoot forward, but you can stay leaning back if you'd like. So lifting the leg, maybe extending it, feeling that strong thigh, and then we'll bend the knee, lower down. Lifting up on the other side, maybe extending it, or maybe keeping it bent, and then very slowly lowering it down. So we're just switching sides, making sure that we're breathing. So anytime you notice you're holding your breath, then maybe giving yourself a little grace and finding maybe a gentler version. So if extending the leg feels like too much, then we'll just lift the leg and using the strength of the thigh, of the quadricep muscles, to hold that leg there. And even if we're keeping the knee bent, we'll keep that foot flexed. And then we'll gently lower the foot down, switching sides, using our strong core muscles to hold us here. So this is a super, super slow motion march. So you can think of it that way. And again, that extended leg is an option if that feels like something you want to explore today, but it's not necessary. And I've got my hands lifted, but if you'd like, you can be holding on for a little bit of support. Again, thinking about getting taller through the spine as we switch from one side to the other. And then maybe just one or two more on each side. We'll make this we'll make this one the last one on this side, and then we'll do one more on the other side. And then gently lowering the feet down. We'll give ourselves a little bit of Charleston here, crossing the knees, bring the knees in and out. So it's always okay to smile during your yoga practice. So checking those lip muscles and making the corners of the lips go up towards the sky. Having a little fun with this. We'll do a couple more just because it feels good. And then coming back into our seat. Placing the hands gently on the thighs. We're going to give our spine a little bit more love and attention. So inhaling, we're going to arch the spine. So shoulders are drawing back. We're creating almost like a backward letter C, really extending the spine. And then as we exhale, we're going to round, maybe bringing hands to the knees, chin comes towards the chest. So inhaling, bringing the heart forward, elbows and shoulders back, and then exhaling, rounding. Just a couple more of these, really getting into the spine. And anytime we get into a movement that you're really enjoying, if we're moving on, you can always pause and stay there. So if you're enjoying this seated version of cat and cow, you could always stay right here. So again, this is a great way to nourish the spine, keep it hydrated, keep it lubricated, keep it mobile and younger as we all get a little older every day. So keeping our spine, almost reverse aging the spine by doing this. So coming back into our seat. And we're going to come into, and I'm going to stay front, we're going to come into a seated figure four position. So this is a great way to open the hip muscles, especially if you're feeling tight into your hips. And if you're really, really tight, you might want to just start here with the left foot on the floor. So creating a little bit of an angle, a little bend in the knee, foot is flexed, and this might be enough sensation into that hip. And if it is, you can stay exactly right here. Another thing that you could do is use a block or maybe a book and put a foot up on the block. That gives you a little more lift, maybe a little more sensation than the foot on the floor, but maybe not as much sensation as taking the foot up onto the thigh. So if this is too much, definitely bring your foot back down to the floor. Only staying here if this feels okay to the hip. If you're, holding your breath or, having a silent scream, bring the foot down. If the foot is lifted, though, we'll flex the foot, and that's going to really protect the knee because it's engaging our thigh muscles. So finding where feels good, and you can sit more upright. Sometimes it feels good to lean forward. I've known, sometimes it feels good to sit backwards. I tend to either like to sit straight up or extend forward because then I feel it a little deeper into that right hip. So finding the place that feels best for you, the place where you can still breathe in and breathe out. And we'll just relax the jaw, relax the shoulders. So if you notice you're crunching up here, relaxing the shoulders down. If you notice there's any tightness in the jaw, maybe wiggling it around. We'll take one breath. Exhaling it out. And then to come out of it, we're going to bring that knee in. So only if the leg was lifted, and we'll give our knee a little hug and maybe a kiss, and then we'll bring that foot down. And before we go to the other side, we'll just notice how the two sides feel. Maybe one side feels a little more open, a little lighter. Maybe the other side feels a little more stuck. So observing those things, and then we'll switch sides. And you have those same options. So having your block or your book, maybe a pillow, and bringing the right foot onto the support, creating that variation of your figure four. Or you can bring the ankle up over the thigh. And both sides might be very different. So you might find that one side is a lot easier to get into the place that you end up than the other. So honoring that and not making any judgments about, oh, well, this side is, whatever, not labeling things good or bad, not, attaching any type of judgment, just allowing, being with what is. So on this side, same thing. If the foot is lifted, if the ankle's on the thigh, making sure the foot is flexed. And even if it's on the floor, you always want to keep that foot flexed, and that's going to keep this thigh engaged to protect the knee. So we want to keep our knees safe. And then only coming forward if that feels okay. You might notice it a little bit more into the lower back when you come forward. And if you do extend forward or back, still keeping the spine nice and long. So rather than rounding, trying to get forward, our goal isn't to get to the floor or to get to any particular place. So we want to think about a hinge at the hips and hinging almost like a door, or the way a book closes, having that same stability. So a door's not going to round and your book cover's not going to round. So just extending, hinging, and breathing. So we're going to breathe in and breathe out. We'll take, just a couple breaths here. And we'll breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the nose. And then to come out, we'll sit back up, give that leg a little hug, maybe a kiss, and then bringing that knee down. So we've made it through the practice, and now we're going to give ourselves a little bit of a Shavasana. And that might be you coming all the way onto the floor, onto your back, or you can come into your Shavasana on your chair. Now, if you're in a very sturdy, stable chair like mine, you might come to the back of the chair. If it's a softer chair, still being a little bit aware of the spine. So we still want to keep the spine somewhat long, but we want to find some relaxation. And you might notice that I put a block under my feet, so you can put something under your feet to bring the floor a little bit closer to you. And same thing as when we started, palms can be face up or face down. We'll let the eyes soften and close. Bringing awareness back to your breath. And again, if you don't want to stay in your chair, you could lie on the floor. You could be on your back or on your belly. Bringing your awareness inward, allowing the mind and the body to slow down. Being grateful for this time that you gave yourself today. Being grateful for this body and all the ways that it moves for you, all the places it takes you. Maybe letting our inward gaze come towards the third eye in the middle of the forehead. Noticing any parts of the body that might still be gripping or holding, and inviting the breath into those places. And you could stay here as long as you'd like. So if you want to stay here a little bit longer, feeling free to. Or if not, we'll make our way out of our Shavasana. So I'm going to just move my block forward, and I'm going to scoot forward on my chair. We'll inhale, sweeping the arms overhead or to the heart, and then we'll bring those hands through to heart center. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you just be. The divine light within me honors and sees the divine light within you. Namaste. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today. Namaste.